in Paris. I lived in France for 8.5, 9 years, something like that. And at the time the story takes place, I've been in France, about a year and a half. It's a long story how I got to this point. Briefly, I crossed France on a bicycle alone and taught myself French along the way, pretty much word by word, phrase by phrase. Each morning I kind of memorized a couple words for the day and I try them out and see if people knew what the heck I was saying. And I lived in the south of France, and then I moved up to Paris. And I was a watercolor painter at the start of my career. I'm from Michigan, as you heard. And the first 5 years of my career, I only painted watercolor. But I had ambitions to be an oil painter. I always felt that oil painting was kind of the big leagues. And excuses Adele, who paints incredible watercolors. They are just fantastic. I still paint watercolor. I love watercolor. But I wanted to try everything, and I wanted to be an oil painter. Now, up to the point of my story, I probably painted maybe 8 oil paintings or something like that, 8 or 10 at the most. And having moved to France, I kind of burned my bridges, and I no longer knew anyone or had any kind of reputation or didn't have to produce work that people recognized or anything of the sort, and it seemed like a fresh start to start oil painting. Well, there was one major obstacle. I didn't have an easel. Now, watercolor painting, I would always paint on my lap. But oil painting, as I still continue, paint standing up with an easel. Well, I was also flat broke. That's another long story of surviving on zero money in Paris and lying about being a student and eating in student restaurants and a lot of other things going on. But at the time, I was starting to make a few friends. Originally, I had a Spanish girlfriend, and that was kind of a roundabout way through a French Canadian who introduced me to her, and she was an art student, so that was good. And she was always willing to pose for me, and I'd pose for her, and so we had that going on. And then at a little cafe, I met a young artist named Benoit, and he was what is called a dessinateur, in other words, a draftsman. And he did what we call graphic novels. And he loved just to simply draw at his drawing board all day. And he had the kind of same room I had, what you call kind of a garret apartment. In French, you call it a chambre de bonne, which is a maid's room up on the top floor with one of these windows you could kind of lift up. And Benoit would always be indoors, and I'd say, Benoit, why don't you come outside and paint? I'm an on-site painter. Come out, it's so beautiful, and you meet people, and you paint along the river. And he said, oh no, I like working inside. I can smoke cigarettes, listen to my favorite music, concentrate, coffee, nice and comfortable inside. So I always knew he'd be there. I'd be wandering around the neighborhood, painting, whatever, and I could always go by. Benoit would be there. Always a good friend working. And we'd go to a local cafe where the owner knew us, Gerard, and he was nice to us. And so it was a good kind of little debut there in Paris, getting going. But still, I didn't have an easel. Well, finally, Marta, the Spanish girl, agreed to loan me her easel because, as I told you, she was an art student. So I went out all proud to do my oil painting, and I went to the Pont Neuf, the oldest bridge in Paris, very picturesque, built by built by, which king was this? Henri IV, Henry IV. And he was later assassinated 4 years later after the bridge was completed on the same bridge, built in 1604. So anyway, I go to the bridge and I set up to paint, and basically her easel was a tripod, very flimsy. And as I started, a gust of wind took it and it broke her easel. Well, a canvas is kind of like a kite, really, when you set up to paint, and it blew it and it destroyed the easel. Well, now, I got everything there, I want to paint anyway. I went to a store and I borrowed some string and I tied my canvas to a lamppost and did the painting that way, and the part where the string was, move the string a little bit and keep painting. But I still needed an easel. Well, meanwhile, along with other activities, Paris is the city of love and romance, and that's what is on everyone's mind all the time in Paris. And it's not hard to meet people, because first of all, it's a pedestrian city, kind of like San Francisco, where you're always walking about and you see people face to face, and it's easy to meet people. And then cafes, people are always sitting on the terrace of a cafe. Well, I had met this cute girl and set up a date, I guess, a few days later, and this was going to be our first date. and we agreed to go to a movie. There was a new movie in town I wanted to see, and it was all set. And I had time to kill, and I wasn't going to walk all the way back to where my room was, and I was kind of in the center of Paris near where Benoit lived. So I went to see Benoit to kill a little bit of time. And as usual, he's there, and he's drawing away with his rapidograph very carefully. And again, I'm saying, you got to get out and paint. Oh, I like working here. You know, I can play my bass. And he goes over and he plays his bass a while. And he says, well, what are you doing tonight? I said, well, I got a date with this girl. I just met her a couple days ago at a cafe. And I don't know her at all. This is going to be our first date. He said, what are you going to do? Well, I thought we'd go to this movie. There's a new movie I want to see. It looks really good. And for lack of something better, a movie. Because really, a movie ends up being a cheaper date than going to a bar. I mean, the amount of drinks I would drink in the length of a movie would end up being a lot more expensive than that movie ticket. So we'll go to a movie. And he said, well, what are you going to see? And I told him, I don't remember the movie now, but it was something, you know, current and popular at the time. And he said, you know, I want to see that too. Let me know how it is, because I really want to see that movie. I said, well, you come with us. You come to the movie. No, I don't want to interfere with your date. You know, it's you know, you go ahead. You want to get to know this girl? I said, I hardly even know her. I just met her. I don't know how it's going to go. I have no idea. Come on along. It doesn't bother me. You know, we'll see what happens. It's okay. Come on. Are you sure? Yeah, come on. So Benoit comes with me, and we go pick up the girl at her place, and she looks very charming, sweet girl, very cute, very nice, French. And we're speaking French. Now, I need to explain, as I said, I'd been in France about a year and a half. And my French was kind of at the Tarzan level at this point. I mean, I could ask, you know, how much does this cost, and where is the toilet, and, you know, the important things. But when it came to, like, flirting with a girl, it'd be like, I like Paris. It good fun. Me like French people. Eat good Paris, you know? And so if the girl really liked you, it was still okay, you know? You got a little bit of grace there, and you had a little bit of the foreign charm going, and you could kind of bluff it a bit. So anyway, meet the girl, we go to the movie theater, and naturally enough, she and Benoit can talk freely and relaxed, and they can say, oh, where do you live, and, you know, how long you been here, and have you ever seen this movie before, and you go to the movie a lot, and have you been a student, and where'd you go to school? And so I'm totally lost, because they're going so fast, and I catch a few words here and there, and I interject like, me go school too, you know, and toss in a few things and try to keep the ball rolling. So we go to the movie, a good movie, I guess, and then afterwards we go to a bar and we're chatting more, but more and more I'm kind of left out of the conversation, and they're really hitting it off. And so, well, okay, you know, Benoit's a good friend, and okay, and the evening goes well, and so finally it's time to say goodbye and walk the girl back, and then Benoit and I say goodnight, and that's that. Well, the next day, I went by to see Benoit again. And as usual, he's at his drawing board, listening to Rory Gallagher, his big hero, and he's got some cigarettes going, and the place is smoky, and he's happy, he's working away. And so I said, how'd you like the movie last night? Oh, I liked it. Good movie. Uh-huh. And what did you think of Brigitte? She was nice. I liked her. I liked Brigitte. I liked her. Yeah, she was really nice. I liked her. Yeah. What did you think? I said, yeah, I liked her. She was nice. And there's kind of like a pause. He says, are you going to see her again? What do you think? He says, because you know what? I really liked her. He said, you know, I don't know what your feelings are, you know, because you met her first, but I really liked her. And I'm kind of thinking, I look across his studio, and I see his French easel over there in the corner gathering dust. And I say, you know, Benoit, you never use that easel. You never go out. You never go out painting. He goes, no, I don't use that easel. I said, but like Brigitte last night, if I didn't want to see her, would you want to see her? He goes, oh yeah. He says, definitely. But no, you've got priority, you know. I said, I'll tell you what. Let me propose something to you. How about if I take that dusty old easel off your hands and I write Brigitte's phone number on a piece of paper for you, how would that be? Deal. So that's what you do for art's sake.